Good morning. I'm Mary Winters. I'm a gerontologist and the owner of About Senior Solutions. Let me take my glasses off here really quick. And thank you for joining us. I have a great show for you on visionary aging today because we want you to be able to plan and know that your future is secure. So we bring on fantastic guests who will make sure or offer some really great advice in that. And today we also have a fabulous birthday for our, his name is Pee-wee. You'll find out a little bit more about him, but he is 100 years old and still jumping out of planes. It's pretty incredible. And we also have a caregiver question from Steve McCullough. So let me go ahead. Our other guest, we have Derek Chevalier. He is a expert negotiator. He has given me some tips like you would not believe. And he's going to come on the show, and we're going to talk a little bit about those bullies and those elder abusers, and some are obviously not too nice, and others are a little sugary sweet, and how we can work with those very toxic personalities and make sure we keep our seniors safe. So let me go ahead and I will I want to talk a little bit about Pee-wee. So let me bring him up and on the screen here. And he comes up here, and oops, get myself off the solo there. And Pee-wee is in Ohio. Let me go ahead and just feature his photo here. And he's out of Ohio, and he was with the he's with 101st. He is a paratrooper from World War II. And his birthday is actually on the 24th, but his name is Jim Pee-wee Martin. And they are having an enormous party for him. They're calling it the 100th Birthday Jump Fest, where he is going to be jumping on his birthday. And out of Xenia, Ohio, they're going to award this huge celebration, have this huge celebration for him. It's going to be a skydiving event over in Greene County on Saturday, April 24th this year, and 2 historic aircraft will fly over with a mass parachute drop to honor Martin, a paratrooper who jumped on D-Day as part of the 101st Airborne Division. The aircraft participating is a C-47, that's all brother, and C-53 D-Day Doll are owned and operated by the Commemorative Air Force. Both aircraft flew missions on D-Day and have been restored and preserved to present their role in the Allied invasion of Normandy. I mean, this is such amazing stuff. And Mr. Martin, also known as Pee-wee, they called him that because of his stature. He was not a very tall man. He was a Takaga original. He was a member of the Screaming Eagle Division, some of the first Allied soldiers to set foot in occupied France. He served with the G Company, 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment in the Airborne Division. In addition to parachuting in Normandy, he also participated in Operation Market Garden and the Battle of the Bulge. I have some friends, some individuals I know who were in that too. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I could go on and on and on about Pee-wee. But basically, they have this Jump Fest coming up, and if you want more information, you can call the office. They will have a big fireworks display, and you can go to their website, WandRVets.org, and get more information and see if you might want to attend that. So an amazing, amazing man. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and show just a couple more photos of him because I think it's really so amazing to look at what he was able to accomplish. And let me see if I can get these photos changed or added here too. And let me see if I can get something actually with him jumping. I mean, this is like amazing. He's just, I don't know, it's just amazing how people age, and he's just incredible that it's obviously second nature to him, but he's still able to do it, and I think it's phenomenal. So Pee-wee, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you so much for being such an inspiration to others too, and for what you've done for our country. So next I have on Steve McCullough, and Steve will be jumping on with a caregiver question for us. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Yeah. Can you
It was
believe
very
that?
festive.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Red was just kind of popped out of the closet today. So, how are you? What is your caregiver question today?
I am good, and my caregiver question comes from a friend who's has an elderly neighbor.
Uh-huh.
They know that he's not driving anymore because the car has been stationed in their driveway for a bit, but he sees people coming in and out, bringing groceries, things like that. He also sees people taking stuff out of the house, and he's a little concerned that you know maybe they shouldn't be taking stuff out. I guess he just wants to know any recommendations on how you should proceed, like who he could contact or should contact or what to do.
Well, there's an 800 number for Adult Protective Services, and when in doubt, it's always a good number to call. You can also call the local sheriff or police in your neighborhood, whoever patrols your area, covers your area, and just voice your concern. Make sure that they actually see the senior, though. Sometimes that's been a concern of mine, which is why I like when you call Adult Protective Services, they actually double up with the sheriff's department or the police department versus just calling the police. Sometimes, it's a non violent crime, so to speak. So sometimes the
Right.
police, if nobody answers, there's nothing more they can do other than maybe they might report to APS. But it's just a nice doubling up of, and making sure that that senior is really checked in on. We've had some really bad situations where there was a gentleman who some people from his church were taking advantage of him, and pretty slick characters. And I'm really glad too that Derek, who he does negotiation on such amazing levels,
Right.
but he is also so talented at sharing information with us and how to work with bullies and people who can be very deceptive. And so I'm happy he's going to talk a little bit about issues wrapped around problems with seniors and abuse too.
Right. So, and one thing I didn't add, they want to be anonymous. They don't want to get in the middle. Do you know if they were to contact that 800 number? Is that an anonymous type
Yeah,
of tip line or?
yep. They can absolutely let them know that it's anonymous. Sometimes they might ask the zip code. I think they do that for funding sometimes, but they do not have to give their name. So that's a great point, Stephen. Yeah, they do not have to give their name out. So
Excellent.
please make sure if you see something that's a little off kilter that you go ahead and give a call to one of those agencies, Adult Protective Services or your local law enforcement.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. So what's up for the weekend? Anything? Well, you know what? We'll talk about that at the very end. So tell me what you're going to do for your weekend. I
Sounds
heard.
good. I want to hear about Nash's birthday.
Oh yeah, he was in my lap last week. So
He was.
yeah, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to bring Derek on, but let me go ahead and I'm going to bring his picture up,
All right.
and
Have a great show.
I will talk to you later.
Sounds good, Mary.
All right, thanks. How are you? It's so fun to be on screen with you again.
I didn't recognize whoever you were introducing.
Oh, come on. You're incredible. You are incredible.
So good to see you.
You too. You too. We'll have to do this more often.
Exactly.
Or we'll bring up some case studies, and maybe you can, share a little bit about how you would handle some of those things. So that'd be kind of fun. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, you have been so helpful to me on occasions when I've had some really challenging situations, and you've said, Mary, that person's a bully.
Right.
And so you have to work a little differently with a bully. But we also talked about the fact that you get those sugary sweet individuals, and they're sometimes a little more dangerous because they're obviously more deceptive and a little harder to detect their truth and how what their real intentions are.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there are, as you say, there are two ends to that spectrum. One of them is somebody who dominates. In other words, they have a loud voice, or they're physically larger or stronger than you are. And where seniors are concerned, they can be overpowered both physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And so the loud voice or harsh physical movements frighten and shut you down.
Right.
So it's important to understand why the person who's being so combative is being so combative. And the answer is it works, right? So that's why they're doing it. Obviously, in a lot of cases, we aren't able to fight back physically. So what do? One of the things we do is to what we call fulfill the significance that the bully is craving by allowing them to believe that they are in control, by submitting and not fighting back so much. As long as they feel that they're in control, that you're not fighting or attempting to assert any kind of aggressive or behavior to stop them from doing what they're doing, they're going to be less combative or less physical because there's less need for it. Now, every now and then, you can have a bully blow up just because if anything else triggers them in their life, then they're likely to take that out on the person they see as least able to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the telltale signs of somebody who is a coward, right?
Sure.
In that way. So to back them off or neutralize some of that aggression, it would be phrases like, you're in charge. I know that you know everything.
Oh, yeah.
I see. Yeah, you're right. Even when you know that they're not right, even when you know that they're not acting in your interest, but that will give you some space to, guess what, call the number that you just talked about. That gives you the space to do it because often the bully's tool is isolation.
No, that's very true. And I think it's really hard sometimes for people to hold their tongue. I'm in these situations with the family and maybe that abuser's sitting there with us. And it's somebody who's not really all that well connected to or, mentally to, but we just have to kind of soothe them through whatever situation, potentially get them out of the house or remove the senior. And you have to hold your tongue big time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now, the other end of that spectrum, and by the way, I would really encourage your listeners and your viewers to take a look at an article. It's on Business Life magazine, but you can send it out. An article that I wrote called "Don't Be Bamboozled by Nice." And in that short article, I talk about a client of mine, and I work on a stealth. That is, I'm not often seen.
Right.
Talking to a client, and whoever they're talking to, whether it's a lawyer or anybody else, they may not know I'm actually in the picture. And there's a reason for that because we're providing a support system, we're providing an opportunity for somebody to have another voice that's outside to take a look at some of the issues as they're going forward and to provide some insight. So I talked to a client and I said, look, we need to hire a lawyer So we had some names that we got. She talked to a lawyer, and I said, look, you're just talking to this lawyer. Let's find out who they are, what their intentions, backgrounds are. We'll talk to several people. A few hours later, I talked to her. She said, oh, I hired an attorney.
Oh, okay.
So why'd you hire the attorney? He's so nice. He was so nice. And my reaction to that was, oh. And she said, well, what's wrong? And I said, I don't know, but we'll find out. So ultimately, it turned out that the lawyer was utterly incompetent.
Sure.
And really only interested in a large retainer. And only really interested in doing nothing for the large retainer. And so this was an instance of somebody that was jovial and open and smiling in their voice and whatnot. And so it was inviting. And all of that physical niceness caused my client to not have any suspicion about what was being said or what they were being told, or even to think about the idea that this is somebody who's only there to take my money.
Sure. Yeah.
Same thing happened several other times where it was a mediator that she hired, and I said, so we were just interviewing these.
She didn't get it the first time. That's hard too.
So nice. He was so nice and so kind.
It's a connection
she needs. I don't have any hair, but if I did, it would stand up on the back of my leg. So
or maybe you pulled it out before our interview.
My ears wiggle like I have spot ears anyway, so they wiggle whenever I hear somebody say, "Oh, they're so nice." I'm like, "Oh, here we go again." Now, that's not to say that somebody who is nice is automatically incompetent or that they're out to get us. It is to say that nice often is a great way to camouflage both incompetence and worse, nefarious intentions. Obviously, if you knew somebody was a bully and you were meeting them, you wouldn't continue the relationship.
Sure.
If you knew they were going to take advantage of you, you wouldn't allow them access to your life. So bullies are often smart enough to figure out that every adage we've grown up learning, you catch more bees with honey than with vinegar. And so they're very nice. And so if you have somebody who is overly nice, that you don't know and you're not really sure why.
Well, and I think it's so fast too. I think it's when somebody kind of is in your space and it's really fast and it's like, well, what do you have? And asking very personal questions and they're none of their business, wanting to know if you have family or who is attached to you so they can kind of get away with some different things. They're not translucent. They don't want to be around when family is around or a friend is around. That is also really big indicator to me that is really not a nice person at all.
Right, red flag. You take a card. So what do you do? Well, you take their card and you actually call that number. And where you find that a business is only connected to a cell phone, that may be another red flag. You might look at an address and find out, well, where is that address? And if it's only an address that's a residence, you might ask more about that. You might also, if you're internet savvy, you jump on the internet and do 5 minutes of what we call competitive intelligence. Just putting their name into a Google search or depending on the device that you have, Microsoft Edge, whatever. And you may very well see red flags come up. You see that other people have had interactions with that person and they haven't been good.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because now in California, at least, there's licensure for the home care agencies and caregivers, even if they're not with an agency, they really should have their number, so to speak, or be certified to be able to work as a caregiver. So all caregivers are really supposed to have these backgrounds with a number you can check. But I think, well, people aren't aware of that, first of all. But secondly, I think what happens too is it's so expensive to have home care now through an agency, but it protects you And because you become the employer of record if you hire your own person. And, in general, I think there are arrangements that work out very nicely, but there are some horrific situations where people really take advantage. And if you're not doing a background check on somebody, or they don't have that certification number to go back and see, oh, this is their background. And I have to tell you, the rules are so stringent for these caregivers that they had something way back in their record as a kid and they're 40 years old. It may preclude them from working as a caregiver. It's really tough, but you want to know that they have that background. And even more recently, we had somebody who was supposedly very pedigreed, has their own website. They weren't a caregiver, but they were becoming very connected with these seniors. And turns out they had several aliases, and really, really scary. And so that's a scenario where the person will be going to court and trying to see if they can get some of their funds back that they were robbed of. What kinds of situations do you have in regards to that? This person is even, counter filing a restraining order against the senior, and it's just absolutely amazing to see how skilled this predator is.
Right.
And what kinds of things would you discuss in that situation?
Believe it or not, the very things we're talking about, I'll bet you that the predator is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So predators use a wanna-buy-a-chicken approach when they're looking for targets. And for your audience, wanna-buy-a-chicken is a sales strategy where you're cold calling people, and you hear robocalls and say, if you're really depressed, or if you need more money, or if you need help, or if you need it, just call this number, right? And it's very nice and very open about it. Just call this number. And if they get you on, they say, hey, our records indicate that XYZ. Now, they may not have any record on you whatsoever, and they may not know anything that they're talking. They're simply using a phrase, and some people are going, by coincidence, oh yeah, I have that issue, or I have that problem, or I'm having that situation. And you say, yeah, how can you help me? And boom, that's the chicken.
Wow.
Right? You can call 100 people, and in these hot houses, you have robocalls that are just calling to identify people who are willing to receive a phone call. So when you're being transferred, say, oh yeah, we can do XYZ with your Medicare. One of the things I'm looking at now is how Joe Namath is being used to tell people, oh yeah, get on Medicare Advantage. You can get free hospital, free care, free this. You can get $144 back on your Social Security. Well, yeah, at what cost? Here's where the cost comes.
And they're not allowed to call you. That is actually something that the insurance individuals, the brokers and so forth, they're not even allowed to do that. You have to contact them. I mean,
right,
it's really crazy. So
right. So, but what happens? They come very nice. Oh yeah, get on this program. But what the senior doesn't realize is there are a lot of insurance companies that are looking to get you off of a PPO type program where you have lower overall cost. Get you on an advantage or something like that. May be great, but a lot of times there are programs that they're selling that actually get you out, and then when you want to go back in, when maybe you need more help, you need more support, you can't get back in because you can't pass the medical. So you want to, again, make sure you're asking questions, most important. Why, and ask what we call Iowa questions. Not, are you a nice person? Not that question.
yeah.
But why should I believe you're nice? Or who else have you worked with? Great idea to call somebody else and talk to somebody else that maybe they've worked with. Ask what questions, how questions, who questions, why questions. And that will be a great way to protect yourself, because if those questions are, why are you asking me that question? That's a red flag to you.
Yeah.
Because if somebody is legitimate, they've got a background. They're going to find them online. You can see them. If they've been in business, I'd go online and look at you. There are lots of entries about what you've done and where you've been and your company and people you've worked
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And time. So I know I feel bad for the really qualified people who are brand new and trying to create that groundwork for themselves, but they do.
Right.
You do need to have some kind of
Right.
ability to show your stuff and show that you're
Right.
trustworthy. So
Right.
yeah, and then
Now, I have a question real quick.
sure.
So, do caregivers, like if you're a real estate agent, for instance, a broker, a realtor, something, anybody can go online. You just go to dreca.gov, and that will get you to the California Department of Real Estate. You can look up somebody's name. You just click on license lookup. You can put in their name or their city, or that you have on the card, and their history of their whole license history, if they've had infractions, all of that will come up. Is there, and also if you're a realtor, that license has to be on your card so that somebody can look it up. How does that work with caregivers, their licensing?
Yeah, so a caregiver doesn't have a business card that they would necessarily carry around. If they're working for an agency, their agency would do all of those background checks and make sure that they're following through. They have Department of Justice updates routinely as an organization. So anything that would pop up that the caregiver may not have said, they maybe got pulled over for drunk driving and they're going through some kind of issue with that. That gets reported to the agency itself, so they know what's going on if there is some sort of a problem with the caregiver, and then each caregiver has to go through this background check and qualified with their numbers. So, but you can actually check a caregiver specifically if you have their number. So you can ask if they have their license number, and you can certainly look up a home care agency and see whether or not they have any kind of issues or that to make sure that they are properly licensed. I think what happens oftentimes too is people don't realize that they are paying a broker, and that creates, which in some situations can be fine, but it still creates a situation where you become the employer of record, and you have to then follow the laws of being that employer. And they're not 1099 in California. They may be in another state. They used to be years ago, but they're not anymore. So just making sure you have the proper coverage with insurance and that you're paying taxes on that.
What you do to help people make sure that they're making good decisions and that they have with reputable companies and that they have backup, right? That's where, in part, one small part of what you do as well, right?
It is, and sometimes that's what the family really wants, and I just want to disclose that to them. I had a family recently who really loved the caregiver, and the son was an employment attorney, so they knew exactly what they were dealing with, and so I felt very comfortable with the fact that they wanted to move forward in that direction. But it's really important for me to want to disclose that to people so that they reduce their risk, right? So,
which is the big part. So one of the things that you were talking about is if you're dealing with a broker, you certainly want to make sure that you can get phone numbers directly to the agency so that when there's an issue, you're not calling the broker. The other thing that we would suggest would be that you have the most power before you hire someone. They'll answer more of your questions, they'll respond more quickly, they'll be more open before you sign a contract. So that means if you're dealing with somebody, you want to make sure that you have the name of somebody in that agency that you can call. So you ask, well, who would I call once I have a caregiver? If I had a question for the agency, who do I call? You don't want any number. You want to get the name of somebody in that agency that you could call so that if you had a question, you could get directly to that agency rather than having to go through the caregiver, which they might want you to do, right? Because they're nice.
Right. And you do want to do that, and you also want some after-hours numbers too. So that way, if you have something happening in the middle of the night or somebody doesn't show up, the systems are really interesting now too. The caregivers typically have to come in and sign into a system, call into a system. which is also, I'm sure, having some new challenges where we don't have landlines, but they're figuring that out. But they know it. It notifies the agency that somebody didn't show up. So it's all very interesting, some of the technology and the changes that we're making. And so, yeah.
So, and let me remind your viewers this. If we do a 30-minute of no-cost consults, but folks have individual questions, I think you've got our website. They can go on and have a no-cost call right from the website or on the phone number. We're happy to do that. Just point folks in the right direction if we can be of service to do that, especially with seniors. We can at least be a number to reach out to. I know how to get you.
Yeah.
So if I don't know, you know, and if you don't know, you know someone who knows. So we're happy to be supportive in that way.
Well, I've appreciated being able to tap into your talent, and it's just remember, what do we do now? What do we do now? What do we do now? Some of these things are really complicated, and I really appreciate being able to take it outside of my skill level and bounce it off of you. So
it's so great to see you, and it's great. And I wish the best for your guests. Use the number, and I want every one of us to call you, because I have a lot of respect and trust for you over the years, and I know that your interest is the best interest of your clients, and that doesn't come every day. And I certainly don't say that about many people, to be honest. So I say that about you because I know it to be true.
Thank you.
So it's great to see you, and we'll talk again.
Sounds great. All right. You have a great weekend.
I will. You take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, it's really nice to be able to see Derek again.
Good. That's great.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and let me bring Steve back, and we'll finish up our program here. See if he can come on. Oh, I have him pushed off.
Hello.
Hey, so pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, he's talking about something on a very micro kind of level, working with the seniors as bullies, but his negotiation experience is phenomenal, and the books that he's written are really helpful. But yeah, he's just so talented with what he does.
Yeah, some of the things he was saying was kind of scary, right? When you think you're dealing with people, and it reminded me of a comment I believe Rebecca made last week, where we had asked her what she missed most about this whole COVID last year, and she was talking about how she couldn't hold her clients and hug them and give them comfort. And I made a comment about, well, yeah, attorneys are people too, and she said some of them. And that reminded me of one of the characters that Derek seemed to have encountered, or probably more than one that he's encountered, where they're just not genuine people.
Yeah, and I see some of that too, as far as really competent attorneys who really have the best interest of their clients, and some who not so much. So it's a challenge, and people are human too. We make mistakes.
Sure.
At the same time, some are just better than others. So what are your plans for the weekend?
Just probably going to the Huntington and getting some reading in and enjoying that opening up again. They're at some point, I don't think it's this week, but next week, they're going to reopen their gallery, some of their galleries.
Nice.
So kind of excited about that, just hanging out and being local and fun stuff like that. How about you?
I am going down for baby Nash's birthday. He turned 1 on Monday, which we kind of celebrated over this weekend here, but I'll go down to San Diego, and she's having a big party for him. So not a big party, but a little party for him to celebrate his first. So
that's great. Those two will keep you on your toes.
Oh yeah. That was quite a workout. You forget. Especially when your house isn't baby-proofed, how much you're running around. But he was great. He was great last night. And so was Logan. So,
His sister's a handful.
Yes. Spirited, young, lovely, healthy children. It was great.
Very active. Yes, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye here, and I'm going to look for our bumper. And you have a great weekend, and everybody else, you have a great weekend. And we'll
You too. Safe travels.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.